Hi everyone! This week I wanted to show you all how to get started on Procreate. I know for the most part all my videos have mostly been sketchbooks and traditional style illustrations, but if you follow me on Instagram, you'll know that I actually do the majority of my pieces in Procreate. So I thought I'd do a series of tutorials. If you wanted to try digital art, you can get started on Procreate and kind of play around with it. So today I'm just gonna give a brief intro to Procreate just to get you started. And this is in no way affiliated with Procreate. This is not a sponsored post. I've just been using them for a while now, and it's my favorite program. So first of all, if you go to your app store, I believe Procreate is only available on Mac products. Search. So usually you'd have the little install button here. I of course already have it, so it just lets me open the program. Procreate is a one-time purchase, so it costs about $10. I like that because it's not a subscription. You don't have to worry about paying it monthly or yearly or anything like that. It's a creation app. It's not just for illustration, although I think that's what the majority of people use it for, and that's definitely the majority of what I use it for. But when I first got started with Procreate, I was actually using it for, I'm not sure if maybe it's not available anymore because of like updates, but I used to be a bookstagrammer. I used to use it to edit photos and kind of create whimsical type of photos for my bookstagram account. When you open Procreate, once you download it, I have it in my bar down here because I opened it recently. So my artwork tab where I put it. So once you open it, you'll have a gallery of all the images that you've worked on so far. And in the top right corner, you'll see some options. You can select different pieces, you can stack them, and then you also have the import button. So if I had saved something here, I could import that file into Procreate and it'll open it up for me and I can work on it like that. There's also a photo button that allows you to import photos from your photo album. So here you see I have some reference images. I have layered pieces, progress shots of my plumeria lay piece. So you can import photos into Procreate. And then here, this plus symbol here allows you to pick a canvas size. So you have, I added a few myself, you're able to do that. So I believe when you first start out with Procreate, you only have maybe screen size, square, and 4K. And then of course you can add your own. These are the ones that I created and titled myself. You can add your own canvas by pressing this little plus sign, and you can title it whatever you want. Test canvas. And let's see, the recommended size for DPI, as far as I have been able to tell based on research, is 300. I usually go with 600. Just because, but 300 will be perfectly fine. I'm really sorry for all these smudge marks from my fingers, but once we get going, I'll have to wipe it off with my cloth here. So yeah, I usually set it to 600. If it's at 300, that's great. That's perfectly fine. Then you can adjust it 300. It's currently set to square, so 3000 by 3000. Let's just say I want my I don't know, let's make the height 3000 and the width 5000. So it'll be a bit long, and then it'll tell you based on your canvas size and your DPI, it'll tell you how many layers you'll have available to you. So if I click that So 5,000 by 3,000 pixels. That means the width of your canvas is 5,000 pixels and the height of your canvas is 3,000 pixels. So the maximum layer for that setup is 31 layers. Now, if I went even higher, let's say I went to 8,000 by 8,000. You see how then, because it's a bigger file size, a bigger canvas size kind of, I think, equates to basically a bigger file size. So it won't be able to hold as many layers. So that has you drop down to 4 layers, which is fine and still doable depending on what you want to do. And I'll get into talking about what layers are once we create a canvas. But that's kind of difficult to work with. So the bigger your canvas size, the fewer layers you have to work with. So let's go back down to 5,000 by 3,000. When you're doing digital painting on Procreate or any other digital program, you can pick between an RGB file or a CMYK file, and it's just different color profiles. RGB has a wider variety of color. This is usually used online so that you have more colors, they're more vibrant, while CMYK is used for if you're going to print out your work. It's because a lot of the professional grade printers, they usually work with CMYK, and that's so basically if you're going to print out your artwork, you want to use CMYK because then your colors that you're working with, that's what is going to be printed out. Whereas if you use RGB, which is mostly for showing your work online, if you try to print that out, the printers can't necessarily match all the colors available under RGB. So when they print it out, the colors on the printout might look different than the colors on your screen and what you're posting online. So basically, if you're not going to print it, go with RGB. If you are going to print it, go with CMYK. But also look at whatever business you're using to print it. If you're using an online print company, they'll tell you what file format they want. They'll tell you if it's CMYK or RGB. And if they don't, then you can usually just email them and ask them and they'll let you know. But for now, since this is just a tutorial, I'm not going to print anything out. Let's go with RGB. Other thing they have is your time-lapse settings. I usually just leave this as is, 1080p, good quality. This allows you basically to, as you're working on your artwork in Procreate, the program itself, if you have it turned on, if you have this setting turned on, it'll record all of your strokes and all of your work that you're doing, basically like a screen recording. And then you can download that either full length time lapse, so like several hours worth of work, might be 10 to 20 minutes sped up video, or you can download the 30-second version. So it's like all of your however many hours it took you to do the artwork, all sped up into 30 seconds. So that's the time-lapse settings. And then here we have canvas properties. I don't usually mess with this. It's fine if the background is white. I usually don't necessarily hide it. You can do that all within your own canvas. So let's see. Let's go back to the dimensions. We have our 5,000 by 3,000 pixel canvas at 600 dpi. We're done with that and we're going to click create. So now it has created a canvas for you, and we picked the background as white as you saw just now. So it gave you a white background, and that's how you can go about creating a canvas. If you click on the gallery button, it'll take you back to your gallery, and here is where your canvas is. And if you click on the title where it says untitled artwork, you'll be able to rename it. So let's just name this test canvas. Done. So now you'll see the test canvas. Okay, so you click on it and you open it, and next to gallery is like these toolbars basically. So if you click on this wrench icon, that opens up all your actions. So first, let's go back to add, this little icon here. You can insert a file, you can insert a photo, which is basically what it sounds like. If I wanted to insert a photo, I could insert, this is the latest piece that I finished, let's see. And it'll put that image right onto the canvas. and you'll be able to resize it and basically do whatever you want with it. But I don't want that in there, so what I'm going to do is, you can see this undo button. I'm going to undo that. Undo, it undoes all your actions. And then now I'm back to the beginning. That's why it's grayed out. And of course, this is the redo button. So if I click on that, it'll redo your actions. Okay, you can also take a photo, which is basically just as it sounds. You can use the camera on your iPad to snap a photo, and that photo will be inserted onto your canvas. You can add text. If you click that, it will say test canvas. So you go back to the keyboard. This is where we just typed. If you hit this this double A here, it'll take you to the fonts. You can look at the different styles. You can adjust the sizing, the opacity. I won't focus too much on that now, but that's where that is. So we'll cancel that. I'm going to go ahead and undo the, oh, that's the other thing. You can double tap to undo. And you can triple tap. So 2 fingers is undo, 3 fingers is redo. See? So if we go back to the wrench, you have other options: cut, copy, and copy canvas. And then once you have either cut or copied something, then the paste command will be available to you. This magic wand button has all the adjustments that you can make to your illustration. I'll go over them in a few videos down the line. Usually what I normally use most often is hue, saturation, and brightness, and curves. I use those to adjust the colors once I'm done with the illustration. And sometimes I also use the different blur effects. And I've also been using the liquify effect a little more. This is kind of like a lasso tool. You have automatic, freehand, rectangle, ellipse. Let's go with freehand. If you had drawn something here, you can take your finger or your Apple Pencil and you can freehand a selection. You can add, remove, invert, copy, paste. You can save this. It won't do it now because there's nothing on the canvas. You can clear that. The rectangle is basically, it's a preformed rectangle shape, and the ellipse is also just what it sounds like. So I'll show you that a little bit more in a few videos down the line. Go back up here and deselect. And then here is your little pointer, add, insert photo, insert photo. Now this is highlighted, and that's basically, it lets you move things around, see? And you can resize it. You can, right now it's uniform, which means that it keeps the ratio of the original image. If you did freeform, it doesn't, the ratio is not locked, so you can you can make it kind of like, you know, like this. Resetting will put it back to its original form. The snapping, if you turn on the snapping settings and you turn on magnetics, let's make this a little bit smaller. You'll see this blue line, and that lets you, it's like a guide. It lets you move it along the line, and it shows you if you deviate from the line. Of course, you can rotate your image. If you click fit to canvas, it'll fit to the canvas, but the image that I inserted has different dimensions. So if you'll see, it actually goes off the canvas. That's something to keep in mind too, that the image that you're inserting isn't necessarily the same size as your canvas. So when you go fit to canvas, you might actually be cutting off some of your image, depending. You can do warp, which creates this grid where you can kind of like pull along the different grid, different squares, and it lets you warp your image. So anyway, yeah, that would be the pointer tool. To get out of it, you just click on it again. And I don't want this in here. So when you insert an image, it'll create a layer. So first you have the background, and then you have the layer. And the layer, you can access the layers by these overlapping squares here. And if you wanted to erase the image, select this, slide it to the left, and you can click clear. And so that'll clear the entire image. Alrighty, so first we have the paintbrush tool, and this opens up your brush library. So if you go all the way to the top, it'll start with recents, and here is all of my recent brushes that I've used. I also created a favorites list with all of my favorite brushes. And then after that, you have Procreate divides it up into sketching, inking, drawing, calligraphy, so on and so forth. There's a very long list. And under each category are different types of brushes, basically. Let's start off with the peppermint brush. If you click on the brush, it'll open up a bigger menu, and you have all the different brush properties of that particular brush. I don't mess around with it too much. I usually leave them at default settings, except for ones that I've already played around with and ended up liking. Like I'll show you. I think it's a 6B pencil I've messed with a little bit. You can also, I believe, set it back to default if you messed with it and didn't like what you did after that. But for the most part, what I use this menu for is the stabilization. This will help your lines not be as jiggly. Let's see, the stabilization right now is basically at 0. I will show you what I mean if I draw on this layer here and just draw some lines. This is with the stabilization off. If I turn the stabilization on, let's just set it at the maximum here. Oops, sorry, done. You'll see that the lines are actually much straighter. They're much more confident. The only thing is that sometimes when the stabilization is on max, you have to go a little slower. So if I try to do the squiggly line really fast, it like won't really work out. But if I did it slower, it's hard to I find it hard to sketch. You see, if you did like little circles like that quickly, it's harder with the stabilization on. So if I turn the stabilization back down to, back down to 0, then I can do, then you can draw circles quicker. You can do like sketchy strokes better. So if I'm doing sketchy strokes, I leave the stabilization at 0. If I'm doing line art that I want to be smoother, then I turn the stabilization on. That's basically all I mess around with in the brush settings. I'm going to clear this. Again, we're going to the layer icon, we're going to click on the layer, and we're going clear, so it clears everything for you. You can also, of course, here's the eraser icon, and it has all the same brush picks as in the brush menu. So if I want to erase everything, usually I go for the hard airbrush, and you can erase like so. That's perfectly fine, but if you know that you want to clear the whole canvas, it's much easier to just clear canvas. So back to brushes. If we move over to the left side of the screen here, this is how you can adjust the size of your brush tip. And this is how you can adjust the opacity of your brush. So let's go for a brush that's a little bigger. Let's go to airbrushing, and we're going to go with the hard airbrush. If I turn the size all the way up to 100, this is how big it is. If I go down to 50 or 50-ish, you see how it got smaller. 20 something is here. If I wanted to go down to 3, see? And let's go further back up so that you can see what I mean when I play with the opacity. So this is at opacity 100%. If I drop the opacity down to 50%, it'll make your brush a little see-through. See? And if I go, see, I'm drawing on top of this, but you can see through it. And then so on and so forth, the further down you go on opacity. So I'm going to go and I'm going to clear my canvas once again. Alright, so let's go back to brush. I'm going to go into my favorites, and I'm going to pick the 6B pencil. That's what I usually like to do my sketches with. See, I'm going to up the size a bit. Another cool thing, so I'm going to go ahead and double tap to undo that. Alrighty, so Procreate also lets you do kind of like quick shapes. So if I draw a circle and I hold it, it creates an ellipse. If I put my finger down on it at the same time, it'll make a perfect circle. So let's see, draw, hold again, and as long as you keep your pencil down, you can move it around. And the same goes with different shapes. Triangle, hold down, see? And then again, I'm gonna press it, and that's a equilateral perfect triangle right there. And let's erase all this again. Increase the size of my eraser. And you can do the same thing with a square or rectangle, or any type of shape really. See? And then if I push down on it, then it creates a rectangle for me. And if I lift up, if I lift my finger up before lifting the pencil up, it'll snap back to its other shape, its quadrilateral shape. So lift. Alrighty, so besides that, let's say, let me just draw a square and kind of color some of it in a little bit. Just going to show you the rest of the tools here. This is the smudge tool. It also has the same brush list as the brush and the eraser. Right now I have it on soft brush. Let me adjust the size, and it's exactly what it sounds like if you want to smudge a drawing. See? I use this to blend some colors together, especially when I'm doing shading or lighting, and I'll show you that a little bit later. But you don't want to overuse it, because it'll just kind of come out looking all blurry. See? But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and clear that. Other thing, this color circle, if you click on it, it lets you pick your colors. And it lets you save them as palettes if you like. It lets you pick the disc setting. This is what that looks like. It's just basically different ways for you to look at the colors. Let me clean my screen because this is embarrassing. And we're back. Oh no, my pencil's out of batteries. I'm actually just going to charge my pencil while I use my fingers. It lets you view the colors in the disc format. The classic format lets you adjust the colors with a slider. If you pick the harmony, it lets you pick, if you click up here, between complementary, split complementary, so on and so forth. That kind of helps you with pairing colors together. And then you have the value setting that allows you to adjust based on, you can either adjust based on numbers. The hexadecimal is helpful if you're looking up a specific color online and you just want that color, you know you want it, and you look up its hexadecimal and you can just type it in and it'll pick that color for you. And then of course palettes I had shown you earlier. A bunch of these I added, but Procreate already comes with some palettes preloaded for you. I typically use the disc format. I like the disc view the most, I guess. Let's go back to your layers setting. If you can change the background color. If you click on background color, you can, let's change it to pink. See? I want to leave it white. Let's go back to white. Okay. The last thing I want to show you for today to help you get started is how to use the layers. Okay, so we have the background, we have the layer 1. So while my pencil is charging, let me draw a little something, just whatever. Let's just draw a square. And we're gonna kind of color that in a little bit. Blah, sorry, not good without my pencil. No, I don't like it. Undo. Let's see if it's charged enough. Okay, so I have my pencil. Let's just draw a square. Oh my gosh, that's so much better than just using my finger. Okay, so we have a square and a circle. I'm not going to do the quick circles. I'm just going to do like a really sketchy version just to show you. That's all on layer 1. Now, if I add a layer, layer 2, on top of that, you can basically think of layers as stacks. They're like different papers almost. So you have your first background layer, then you have layer 1 on top of that. So you're not actually drawing on the background. You can turn off the background and your layer's still there. You were drawing on layer 1. Think of it as a second piece of paper. Now, layer 2 on top of that is another piece of paper because it's on top of layer 1. Let's pick a different color. Let's go with yellow. On top of layer 1, that means that what you draw will actually draw over layer 1 because it's stacked on top of layer 1. Now, if you hold this and drag it under layer 1, it's like you move that piece of paper underneath layer 1. Now let's double tap that because I want to undo. It's not double tap, I'm sorry, tap with 2 fingers. So let's add another layer. And before I draw on it, I'm going to move that underneath layer 1. I'm going to let's pick a green color. Now, because you've just moved it underneath your 2 other layers, what you draw will go under that. It won't go on top. See? So your order of layers is actually really important when you're creating things. And now if I move that on top of the purple pinkish layer, it's on top of the purple and pink, but below the yellow. And if I move it up again, now it's above both of them. So you can move the layers around if you like. You can also, if you tap on a layer, it opens up all these options for you. Renaming, that's helpful once you have like a bunch of different layers going. For instance, I could name this one, let's scratch this out. I could name it yellow. And then I can click up here to kind of, right now the cursor is still there, so I want to just click up here and it'll close the renaming option. You can select, copy, you can fill the layer, which is exactly what it sounds like, but I was on green. The last color I was using was green, so it filled the layer with green. So I'm gonna undo that. we've already talked about the clear layer. Alpha Lock makes it so when you color, you're only coloring on what's already there. So for instance, let's go with a blue. So no matter where I move, excuse me, no matter where I'm moving, you see, there's nothing coloring here because this top layer is what's locked. So I can only color on this layer. See? Oops, sorry. And then once, of course, I unlock it, turn the alpha lock off, then I'm free to color wherever I want. I'll go over the masking and the clipping a few videos from now, as well as everything else. For now, I hope this was enough to get you started on your own creations. I hope this was helpful for anyone who's ever wanted to get started on Procreate or just messing around a little bit and creating whatever you want. In the next video, I plan on taking you through my sketching process and doing line art. And if that's not too long in itself, then I might add the coloring information to that about how I color my illustrations. And if not, then that will have to be a separate video. But this will all be a series of videos on Procreate. I really hope you enjoyed it and found it useful. Please let me know if you liked it down in the comments below. If you have any questions, also let me know in the comments. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye! Mickey. Oh. Mickey. Mickey. Minnie. Oh, Macy. They're your bros. Marius, are you okay? You okay, buddy? Mars, are you alright? You okay? And you. And you. Oh.